if they both got educated. It's worth the time to get educated to see how to work out a better deal, a private agreement between the two parties, instead of having all these government default benefit programs plugged in. So that's the cost of what this stuff does. So here's like a quick summary overview of this common option. Okay? It's for the disadvantaged. It's a nice system from that perspective. Do you realize we can be born in this country, grow up, not learn a thing about ourselves, thing about the law, thing about our rights, and we have all these nice little benefit programs lined up for us. I could stand up here and tell you what's so great about this country. You know, we don't even have to think anymore. They'll take care of us. But it's not free. So the default contract of service, the relationship is a government employee and servant. ID requires a social insurance number. The payment is taxable remuneration. Here's what they're doing for you. They're mandatory benefits. To me, that's an oxymoron. It's like, hello. You have to get Canada Pension Plan. That's how it's all connected through that. As an officer, you have to get employment insurance as an insured person. Now here's the example we're saying. Both of these use a social insurance number, but the legal entity is a different person. And we'll show you why in a second. And if you've really gone into here and didn't know, you most likely get drawn into this workers' compensation as a worker. Okay, but don't worry, you're protected, technically. Now here's the summary of the forgotten option for the person responsible. This is exercising your right with some knowledge and some education. Use a private contract for hire. Basically, in Paradigm, we use the phrase contract for hire for we can communicate as basically a tax-free employment contract. The relationship, you're a private contractor. The ID required, you need a name. You can change it every paycheck if you want. The payment is compensation. See, you've actually expended energy. See, these guys, notice he stood here all night and he didn't do nothing. He's going to leave here with the same amount of energy as he came. But I'm going to have to stop for coffee. Right? You expend energy. Now, in this, you're not disconnected from the world of benefits. There's tons out there. Okay? But they're all voluntary. Now you can pick and choose. Okay? There's tons of private pension plans. But think about what would your life be? Would you really need CPP if you were to keep all the income tax you ever paid? Think about how your life would be if you could get that one thing out. Okay? But there are tons out there. And because of our some international requirements and our connection, we already have some ones. We have the OAS, which you get whether you ever work for the officer or not. You got the GIS if you ever work for the government officer or not. Right? Why do we need 3 government pension plans? Well, we have 2 because they're they're international requirements, but the one is this nice little one they brought in there for their internal federal government officer. Okay? Employment insurance, you can still get it as an insured person. Since we've started doing this, I don't know of any person who's actually wanted to get it because they realize the illusion behind employment insurance. It sounds good, but by the time you jump through all the hoops, a lot of people say, just give me my money, I'll put some money away for the rainy day. Workers' compensation, you can still get it. Okay, an independent operator, you can still get it. See, they have to make these available to everybody also, so they always had to have a back door for us to get in. Now, if you like the idea of getting hurt, waiting 3 years of appeal, and possibly getting some compensation, go ahead and sign up. But there's tons of private accident insurance that are just a much better deal. Okay, so again, that's sort of a summary of all this stuff. So as we wrap this down, just to sort of finish this off with a little bit about Paradigm and what it is, where we came from and stuff. And really, Paradigm Education is an association of individuals working together all across Canada now. Okay, years ago it started with just a couple people, a couple more. But it's amazing how many people are willing to do what's necessary to save a great country that we have. Now we've come together to combine our passion and our commitment to share this knowledge with respect for moral and spiritual values and the rule of law. To find that balance point. You know, instead of getting rid of this country and saying it's all bad, look at it for what it is, because it is a great country. We just have to get back to that point of getting rid of those who are taking it over. So we can all learn to free ourselves and this country from the greed of the illusion, so we can leave an inheritance for our children and our children's children. And this is the sad reality of it, because as far as this game has gone now, if we don't start doing something, there is going to be nothing for our kids, because our kids will wake up thinking they are slaves, which is nothing new in history, because there's times in our history where people were born thinking they were slaves. You know, as the more and more control they get, the harder it's going to be until we start waking up. Like inside Paradigm, we're extremely confident. What we're seeing here in the intro is just a tip of the iceberg. Even the other course doesn't have the time to go deep. So our confidence is extremely high, but it's a quiet confidence. Okay, and we've been offering this 20-ounce gold reward, and it's yet to been challenged or claimed. We used to have 5, and we upped it to 20. So we put it up to 20, not, how you say, not because we think we're misguided. Okay, we almost did it to help other people. Okay, because when you meet somebody and you start talking about this and they go, oh, it's a scam, or it's this, or it's that, or it's this, right? You say, fine, great. If you're so smart, let's share the 20 ounces. See, we gave it to help you empower, because there are people out there who think, oh, they know everything. Yeah, I guarantee you they've never the act. Well, you'll really find, if you start throwing this in their face, you'll find the big difference, you'll find the reality that talk is very cheap. Because anybody can say anything, okay? But when you say, okay, we'll put our money where our mouth is, you put yours. All of a sudden they, go in the back. And again, we made it off not because we think we're misguided, but because our search for the truth is such that we don't mind what the truth is. We just want it. See, when you're looking for the truth, you don't care what it is. And so we never really started this search with a predetermined conclusion, trying to look for something. We wanted to see what it was regardless. Because in simple terms, the truth can only be one of two things. Either we are slaves living in an illusion of freedom, or we are free living in an illusion of slavery. And I think even by the little bit you've seen in this course, you realize that we are free, and this whole slavery thing is just a big illusion that they created. And again, we've been searching almost a year and a half ago. Wrote a letter to the Prime Minister, Chrétien at the time, just asking for the truth. I wrote him, Dear Sir, I said, bonjour, because he's French, right? Says, my name is Russell Anthony Periskin. I'm writing this letter to you in my capacity as a natural person. I'm the founder of Paradigm Education Group, which is a group of natural persons that have chosen to spend their time and energy studying and educating our fellow Canadians about their human rights. Collectively, we must have close to 200 years, that's probably quadrupled by now, okay, of combined research of the subject matter, and have come to what seem to be some fundamental conclusions. The two main being that human rights are sacrosanct in this country. They're above all, okay? And no act of law can be so written to infringe, abrogate, or abridge any of our natural rights without specifically declaring it in prescribed form. This is Section 2 of the Canadian Bill of Rights. Okay, so this is what has driven me to write this letter to you. Until now, we've attempted to write letters to different ministers for clarification of a few fundamental points in relation to human rights. But as of yet, we have failed to receive a direct response. We seem to always receive these vague and ambiguous responses. They just start spin doctoring it. Okay? It has been these types of responses that has created a lot of frustration for those of us who spend the time to write to further our understanding. So in light of our previous attempts, I thought I would write to you directly in hopes that as the leader of this country, you can make the appropriate directive to the appropriate minister to assure us a clear and direct answer to one of our most fundamental questions. I wasn't going to overload them. I just wanted one. Okay? The one question I would like a direct answer to is as follows. Is a natural person, as defined by Canadian Law Dictionary, working in his own capacity under a private contract for his own benefit, subject to the Income Tax Act of Canada? All that we learned tonight can be compressed into this one question. Okay? The main reason I seek a direct answer to this question is the fact that through our studies we've come to what seems to be the only logical conclusion possible, and that is no. So in an attempt to maintain Paradigm's intent and integrity as human rights educators, we feel we have a duty to ourselves, our fellow Canadians, and this country to verify our conclusions with all levels of government so we can educate others with facts and truth and not misguide or harm them in any way, like you do. Oh, no, I took that out. Okay? You want to see the answer to that? Would that be nice if they answered that? Because see, that's the part of us, how we've been trained. We've been trained to look outside ourselves for an answer. We want our government to tell us. Well, I'll show you what the answer to that one was. Uh-oh, it broke. Over a year later, nothing yet. It's almost approaching 2 years. I knew I wasn't going to get an answer, but I almost wanted an answer. But I realized it was the best thing they could do is never to answer that question, because then that would force every individual to find that answer themselves. Okay? Because you're not really free if you have to look outside yourself and ask somebody if you're free. Because if you have to ask them, guess what? They can tell you the next day that you're not. But when you know you're free, why you're free, then you're free for the rest of your life. So you can either wait for someone to tell you that you're free, or you can accept the fact that true freedom comes from within. It comes from knowing the truth. So what is this truth? How do we know of any of this? How do we know what the truth is? Who really knows for sure? I mean, it's a big illusion from all levels, but we each need to find our own. But consider this, where the logic of the mind, where all the facts and stuff come together, they meet the wisdom of the heart, the truth shall be found. See that? Because that's that frustration you felt. We've all been feeling. What we see and what we're told does not fit with how we feel. But when those 2 points come together, I don't know if that's the truth, but it's the closest thing that I can relate to. So it's a journey you can either make alone. Just with some of the educational stuff, we try to put as much in there, but you can take the journey alone. Or you can walk with others who are making this paradigm shift. Okay, it's a change in our whole understanding. And a paradigm shift, it's easy as 1, 2, 3. Step 1, learn the path. Spend the time and become educated. What you saw here tonight was the tip of an iceberg. I highly recommend you just don't try to restructure and do this just on what you saw here tonight. You learned just enough here tonight to hurt